Welcome back to another RiftGuides WildRift video. For today we are going to take a look at the best SoloQ champions that are available, and we are going to show you the winners for the Patreon giveaway. But first, let's talk about the best champions for SoloQ, and your games are going to get a lot easier with them, trust me. For this list we are going to do something slightly different, as there's one pick that is so absurdly broken that he's the uncontested #1 in 3 different roles. Jayce is just not balanced and needs nerfs as fast as possible. So for our first pick, in the Baron lane we have Mr. Jayce. His level 1 presence and overall laning agency are just out of this world, and no one can even dream of contesting his level 1. All he has to do is abuse ranged alt attacks and the fact that he has access to 2 abilities immediately. Playing against this champion surely isn't fun, but he's exactly the champion you want when you're facing off against the next champion in this list. And here we have Fiora for you. Fiora is infamous for the toxic trading patterns and her ability to snowball throughout the laning phase. Prior to Jayce's release, there was little hope that anyone could step up to her level 1 strength, but those times are finally over. By the way, Grace also exists. Nonetheless, Fiora is as toxic as ever if you are the better player. Dealing with Fiora's way of playing requires a thorough understanding of how she works and what you need to do in order to stop her. Compared to that, Fiora most of the time only has to lunge at you on cooldown, and potentially time her second ability somewhat right. Sounds fun? It is, but only if you're the Fiora. And before we continue, it's time for our question of the day. What role are you currently playing and what's your favorite champion for that role? Let me know in the comments below. Next up comes the jungle role, and who would have guessed that Jayce is again on rank 1. Picking this champion every game is not a mistake by any means. No, I'm encouraging you to do so, as this champion is absolutely crazy. The only thing you have to get used to while playing him in the jungle is that you need to use the melee form a lot, especially in the early game. Melee alt attacks deal cleave damage to all other units around, whereas ranged attacks don't. Therefore staying in the ranged form is a mistake that is going to cost you time. And losing time is something nobody ever wants to do while playing jungle. Having more time on your hands usually translates into having more choices available, which is the best thing you can ask for as a jungler. Other than Jayce, we have another champion for you who's been at the top of jungling for far too long. But honestly, I don't think he's going to disappear anytime soon unless we see some major changes to the jungle role in general. Lee Sin is just too annoying, and as of right now, you hit level 3 by just clearing 2 camps and sitting in a brush until 1 minute and 16 seconds into the game. Great design for camping. But that's not even all there is to it. Riot also thought it's a funny idea to buff this champion, and every higher elo player can agree that this was definitely not the move. Having this champion in your game forces you to play lane completely differently. The pressure he exerts is too potent to ignore, and the risk of dying while you're actively trying to go for proactive plays is way too high. Therefore, it's most of the time, unless you can 1v2 of course, better for you to just sit back and play a lane more controlled so you're not at risk of dying. And next up comes the mid lane, and oh surprise, Jayce is here again. You might have guessed it right, yeah, this champion is absolutely balanced, blah 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 blah, I'm joking by the way, but we're just showing him here just as another option. Otherwise, we are recommending Akshan, as this champion is absolutely the most fun, interactive and broken pick in this game. His laning phase is obnoxious if he knows what he's doing. The main thing here is about how he uses his spells. Fishing for hits with his first ability and then jumping in for a trade or a kill with his third ability are his key laning mechanics. Other than that, you want to allocate a second skill point into your third ability on level 3. This grants you so much more damage in early game skirmishes. Depending on your swing, you might even one-shot somebody with it. It's absolutely crazy. But the true strength of this champion comes from his ability to camouflage himself by constantly looking for rotational plays. On top of that, it gets even worse in the late game. Let's just imagine that you quadra kill the enemy team and then the Akshan kills you. Well, you just revived his entire team with that. That's some great mechanic, and wouldn't you agree? It also allows you to completely play differently in terms of aggression. Going for plays that will get your teammates killed isn't a problem anymore, as you can just revive them. Try out-tempoing an Akshan, and yeah, that really won't happen. Next on this list is the AD carry role, and here we have 2 picks for you. Let's start with the recently buffed Kai'Sa. This champion is probably the best choice for SoloQ in the sense that you'll be able to carry a lot of your games if you're following a few simple rules. Number 1, don't associate too much with your team's bad decisions. Number 2, focus on maximizing your gold income so you can carry fights later on. Lucky for you, you are a hyper carry that doesn't take too long to scale. Just getting your first abilities evolved is good enough to impact most fights positively. In addition to that, you're also able to literally consume waves and monster camps in an instant thanks to that. And exactly that you're going to do. You want to farm as much as possible, as fast as possible. That way you can reliably carry most of your games in SoloQ. The other champion for the AD carry role is Varus. But don't get confused, you don't play Varus as a normal AD carry. Rather than continuously dealing damage with your auto attacks, your main damage comes from cooldowns. But that's not all. Furthermore, you're able to offer some extra versatility. You're not forced to go lethality, you may also go for an AP build. But let's quickly talk about the different goals of those builds. The lethality build performs exceptionally well into squishy enemy team compositions. Your goal is to poke them out and render them unable to fight. On the other hand, the AP build tries to one-shot tankier targets as it deals massive amounts of burst damage compared to the lethality build. Both variants are insane for their respective purpose, so check them out. You won't be disappointed, and you can believe me. Last but not least comes the support role, and here we have two champions for you yet again. Let's start with Thresh. This champion's level 1 is quite scary, especially if he has skilled his third ability. The bonus on hit damage from its passive, including the active part, turn him into a powerhouse from the get-go. When you're against this champion, you need to be very mindful of your surroundings. Just because you don't see him doesn't mean he isn't there. The best Thresh players will do their best to stay out of vision and then fish for you with their first ability. Here's also a neat trick for Thresh. Compared to the PC version of this game, you're able to hook flash in WildRift. It's most of the time not really necessary, but it's heckin' cool. Other than cool montage plays, you may also go for the reliable version. Just flash flay someone and force them to blow sums. Right after they do so, you can go for a guaranteed hook. Keep it simple and remove the enemy's chances to outplay. Next to Thresh, we have Nami for you. This champion is an absolute monster in terms of lane pressure. She can 1v2 a lot of lanes thanks to a high damage output and sustain. Weaving in autos and waiting for the enemy to deal damage to you is mandatory if you want the maximum value of your second ability. Don't just use it, be thoughtful with it. Another thing that's important is that you're not meant to just spam your abilities. Using a spell for no specific reason can create a window of opportunity for the enemy. While that spell is on cooldown, you might be more vulnerable than you think you are. However, it's only on the enemy to punish you for that. But please don't get complacent just because enemies aren't good enough to punish you for your mistakes. It's a long journey, but with enough patience and dedication, you'll be a great support player, I'm sure of it. And that's it for today's video. Thank you all for watching, and if you enjoyed the video, leave a like and subscribe to the channel. If you participated in our Patreon giveaway, here's the list of winners. Contact us on Discord with a screenshot of your YouTube account to verify that we have the right person. For those of you who don't know what we are doing on Patreon, you're more than welcome to check it out. Stay safe and see you soon for more RiftGuides content.